Stitcher. Welcome to the first Flosstube of 2025. This is my January update and a little bit of December. So if you are new here, welcome to my little corner of the internet where I talk about mostly my cross stitching, but occasionally my hiking, my reading, and whatever else I feel like talking about. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. Please leave a comment, a heart, a like, whatever, and let me know what you think of my stitching. All right, so today is February 2nd, 2025. It is Groundhog Day, and we are in for another 6 weeks of winter. I don't mind that. So today, I'm going to try to film really quickly because after I finish filming this, I'm on my way over to a local winery to meet up with a bunch of stitchers. We do this about once a month, and some of the stitchers that come have been Jessie Marie Does Stuff, Krista the Shenandoah Stitcher, Becca is Stitching, Crafting Across Continents is coming, Robin in Virginia. So if you are in the northern or central Virginia area, let me know that you want, whether or not you want to be included on the next stitching thing. So without any further ado, let me jump into some things. So first of all, I had some finishes in December and some haul in December that I did not show you in my whip parade because, well, you know, life. So let's get into some of the finishes I had in the month of December. First one is Summer Music from Elsa Williams. And here is what she looks like finished. Move it back a little bit. So this project was one of my oldest whips. This came in a kit, and it is retired now. So if you want this kit, you can find it for a pretty penny on eBay. And I started this in 2014 and finally just just kind of powered through towards the end of the year, and I got this finished. I'm so happy with how this turned out. This is going to probably get framed and in a place of honor in my house. So this is Summer Music from Elsa Williams. And then in December, I had a start and finish while traveling. This is Jolly Old Soul from the Black Needle Society. This is one of the many snails that Katie designs. And so I started this and finished this in the month of December for my 12 starts or 12 days of stitching for Christmas. And so there he is. So this is using the called for DMC on a 16 count Ada. And isn't he adorable? So I just have one more snail to go, and then I will be caught up on all the snails that Katie has done. And she started a snail subscription, so I've got more coming. And then I finished my Disney Villains piece. So this was a stitch along from Fandom Stitching Central last year. And so I had already finished the Heroes piece. And so now I can show you the finished Villains piece. So this is stitched on a 16 count fabric from Grace Notes Fabric. I believe it's the Duke and I. And this is using all the called for DMC with the substitution of some A12 purple for the background motif. So if you can, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see that. And my goal for 2024 was to stitch a character every other week. And I did that. So this was one of my finishes in 2024. So yay, I got both of them finished in the year that I wanted to. So now I can move on to some of my other whips. So those were the December finishes that I wanted to show you. And then in January, I had one finish and one I decided it was finished. So let me go through the one I decided was finished first. So those of you who've known me for a while know I have been struggling through this piece a little bit, and I love it, but it seemed like every time it came up on my whip list, I almost wanted to cry. So finally, I decided I'm done. So this is Skating Penguins. So this is what I have done, and this is what I'm going to have done. So originally, there was supposed to be a line of penguins that fit this whole thing. But after, thinking about it and crying over it a little bit, I said, you know what? Doing this much, I got this much done where all the penguins are done and backstitched, but this keeps with the spirit of the piece, and it allows me to have a finish on it and just be done without having to do the other half, because this is literally only half of the penguins that were supposed to go on here. But I still think they're absolutely adorable. This, I believe, was a very old Dimensions kit, maybe. I'll put the information below if you're interested. But this was actually a garage sale pickup that I picked up. So the first four penguins over here were already done, and so then I put in these last few over here. And so now this is done. This makes me very happy to be finished, so I can put it up and I can enjoy it without having to cry over that I was only halfway done. So that was my skating penguins, or penguins on ice. And then my last finish in January was a WIPGO call. So I finished, that was actually that was my goal for WIPGO, was to finish this piece in January. So I did. This is Silver Bells from Lindy Stitches. This is stitched all on the called for fabric using the called for Forbidden Fiber Floss and the DMC. It was kind of a mix of both. And this came in a Black Needle Society nice list box 2 years ago. So I think this was the 2023 box. No, 2022 box. I had to think for a second. And I started this in June or May of 2024. So this was a Mania start. And this was a January finish. So that is Silver Bells. And as you can see, this was, again, I did a center start because I was crazy and didn't realize that I should have started in the corner. So I have a lot of excess fabric. I have not decided if this is going to be a flat fold, a pillow, or a framed piece yet. But it will be done. So those were all of my finishes since December. I did have 2 pieces of haul in December. I had some in January, but nothing that I can, well, one that I can show you. But in December, I went to the local cross stitch shop, and I hear Bo. Bo's coming, so Bo make an appearance here. So I went to my local cross stitch shop, and I picked up 2 items from my wish list. The first one is Grandma's Lilacs from Carolyn Manning. I do not know when I'm going to start this yet. However, this kind of ticks off a couple of pieces in my soul, because my grandmother growing up had a white lilac tree, and every time I see a white lilac, I just go back to the memories of being at her house as a kid, and also just going to the Lilac Festival in Rochester, New York with my friends and family growing up. So this, I do not know when this will get started, but I am so glad I've picked up this piece. So this is Grandma's Lilacs from Carolyn Manning Designs. And then I picked up Satsuma Street's Pretty Little Washington, D.C. I'm currently stitching the Pretty Little London piece, and I have the Pretty Little New York piece as well. But since Washington, D.C. is pretty much my current hometown city, I knew that this had to be in my collection. So I love that you see the cherry blossoms for the Cherry Blossom Festival, and there's the Washington Monument and the Capitol and the White House and all sorts of different, there's the Lincoln Memorial. So this just evokes all of the amazing things that are in the city of Washington. So that was my other piece of haul in December. And so in January, my haul, I bought the box for Frogwarts Year 6, so that'll be in July, so you'll see that unboxing when it comes out in July. I also got my first snail subscription for the Black Needle Society, which should be coming any day now. So it'll be like that little Christmas snail, but it will, I don't know what the first design's going to be. And I picked up a couple of silks, and they have not arrived yet. So that is my haul for January. So let's talk about what my January stitching was like. So I'm going to show this in just whatever order is in this pile. but this was my first year ever that I got over 30,000 stitches. So in January total, I had 32,315 stitches. I stitched every single day, and I managed to meet the vast majority of my monthly goals. So I was really proud of myself. So let's go through. So this first one is the piece that I'm stitching for my father. This is the antique fire truck collection from Busilla. I should say not the collection, but this is what it's going to look like. This, I believe, is a retired kit that I picked up at Joann's or Walmart years ago. And I had started it and messed up royally, so this was a restart back sometime in 2015. So this is on my Whip of Shame Whip Go board, where the goal was to put in 100 stitches a day. I unfortunately did not get quite to that goal, but I did make over 1,000 stitches on it, so I'm not going to be too mad at myself. So this is where it was at the beginning of January. And here is where I'm at now. Let me make sure you can see all that. Yep. So that is my current progress on this. So in January, I did more backstitch on the fire truck and I added more of the background. So I'm working really in this area. If you can see that. Yep. There we are. So this is the area in which I'm working. So I started to get more of, I brought this background up. I got the hose backstitch and I got some of the hats backstitched. So this is going to come up again at least once on Whip Go again this year. So that is something that I'm just going to keep plugging away at because this needs to be finished. This is pretty much officially my oldest whip now. So that is Antique Fire Truck, and I ended up getting 1,234 stitches in January. So hey, I will take it. It's over 1,000 stitches. And then the next piece that I worked on was another Whip Go call. So I had a Whip Go call, a Whip Go board for my new starts. So stuff that had been recently started. So this piece came up at first, and this was a piece I started in January, or not January, May of last year. So this was a Mania start, and this is the Grand Teton Wildlife Sampler. So here is where I was at the beginning of January. And my goal on this was to either, my short-term goal was to finish an animal or to get at least 550 stitches in. So I didn't, so this is where I ended up. So as you can see, I was able to hit the goal of finishing an animal. So I have the bison all done. He is done. He is backstitched and his paws are in. And I started some of the border. So when this gets called again, I'll be able to stitch my way over to either the elk or the moose. So this is Grand Teton Wildlife Sampler from the Posey Low collection. And pretty much you can find her stuff at any of the national parks or national historic sites. So this one I actually purchased at the Grand Teton Park gift shop. So that piece, in order to make that goal, I got 372 stitches in to make the goal for the month. So, yay. And then the next piece is one of my Frogwarts pieces. So this is the bag it's in. This is a beautiful project bag from Stitchy Missy, and I bought this at Cecilia's in Blue Springs, Missouri. And so I am stitching all of the Frogwarts pieces on one piece of fabric. So in the month of January, I worked on Frogwarts year 4. So here is where I was at the beginning of January. And here is, let me just try to sort it out here for you so you're not seeing the whole thing. Here is where I'm at now. So I was able, in January, I was able to put a little bit more of the maize in. I was able to start the carriage and bring over the bottom a little bit. So this is not a whole lot, but I was pretty proud of myself that I was able to put in 334 stitches in for the month of January. So this is my progress on Frogwarts year 4. And my goal every month is to kind of rotate in between the different years and put in a little bit of stitches. So I'm hoping that in February, maybe I can start Frogwarts year 5 on this. But I'm also not majorly prioritizing that goal because I have a lot of stitching and I don't want to beat myself up if I don't make my goals. Because that is something that ruins the fun of stitching, is the moment you set a goal and realize you're not going to make it. So it's kind of like a wish list of what I want to get done. So we'll see. But that was Frogwarts year 4. And then what else did I... Ooh, and this is one of my new starts. So I did have 4 new starts in the month of January, and this was one of them. So let me show you here. This is called Local Conditions from Satsuma Street. This is a temperature chart, and this came in the November Nature and Elements box from the Black Needle Society. So the way I'm working this is that every day I'm recording the high temperature in my hometown, and then on Tuesdays, I've designated Temperature Tuesdays. So thank you to Jessie Marie Does Stuff for that idea. So on Tuesdays, then I'll stitch everything for the past week, and each day is at most 20 to 25 stitches. So I maybe get 100 stitches per week. So here is where I ended up. So this is not all of January because I still have a few more days to go, but you can see here in January we had a cold snap. But here's starting January 1st all the way over to where we left off last week. So this, I really, really am liking this. And of course the colors come out based on whatever your high temperature is. So my high temperatures are obviously going to be different than anybody else's. So that's the beauty, is that anybody stitching this will have a different project. So I am really enjoying working on this. And so this is stitched on using the called for DMC on a piece of, I believe it is, 16 count fiber on a whim from a previous Gilmore Girls box called Presenting Lorelai Gilmore. So it's just a beautiful beige neutral, which makes all the colors pop. So that is Local Conditions from Satsuma Street. So that was one of 4 new starts. And because I have it, I'm using a Gilmore Girls fabric. It's in my Gilmore Girls project bag from the Black Needle Society. And so that was a total of 424 stitches for the month of January. The next piece I worked on is one of my very long-term pieces. So it is in this beautiful project bag that came in this year's Nice List box from the Black Needle Society. And I really, really love all the cute animals in here. You've got the fox, and you've got all the wildlife animals. So this is a Christmas piece, which makes sense because this is where I am keeping my Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow piece. So this was started in December of last year, and this is probably one of the biggest non-full coverage pieces I have ever taken on. And so kind of trying to figure out how to do this. So I am using a method that my friend Nancy, the Disorderly Stitcher, talked about using her Hawk Run Hollow. So she divided each block into 4. So she kind of did this and just said each month she's going to stitch a quarter of the block. So I went in and I charted each block separately into Pattern Keeper. And so my goal is each month I am going to stitch to 25%. So I've designated the 12th and the 25th as my Hawk Run Hollow days each month. So in January then I was able to get to the halfway point of block number 1. And so I put in 806 stitches. So here's where I was at the beginning of January. And then here is where I'm at now. So each block is going to be 92 by 92. So I got the top half done. Kind of making sure I can see this here. You guys can zoom in. And I am really, really, really enjoying the colors. This is on, I believe it's a 32 count even weave. Just a basic beige, I don't even remember the color name of it. But I am using the DMC conversion that was provided. The silks that I did order are two of the silks that there is no DMC conversion for. So those will be coming, but beyond that, everything is in the DMC conversion that was provided, because the NPI silks are gorgeous, but to buy the entire um, set of silks that I would need for this project is not in my budget right now. So I am using the DMC, and I'm so far enjoying it. And the nice thing about stitching, about charting it into Pattern Keeper first, is that I can kind of get a preview of what it'll look like. And so if I'm not the biggest fan of how it looks, I can kind of just make minor tweaks to it. So that is Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. So the goal with that is to have it done in 4 years. So in February, I hope to have block 1 finished. No, I lied. 75% of block 1. So I'll have block 1 finished in March. All right, so, and this next piece is kept in this beautiful project bag. Again, Black Needle Society. I believe this was part of the Nature and Elements box. But this piece, yes, this piece is another one of my new starts in January. So this is where you get enabled really easily when you're on Instagram and Facebook. So this is the Woodland Winter Stitch Along from Autumn Lane Stitchery. And part 3 was just released recently. I have not even finished part 1, but that's okay. They call them start alongs for a reason. So I saw this and I said, okay, this fits my outdoorsy type. I love winter pieces without them being Christmas. So I did get it started. So I'm hoping that the fabric color comes out okay. Let me see if I can put some white behind it here so you can see it a little bit. So this is where I am at the end of January. Yeah, see there? Yeah, the white helps. So I have the house done and I have the trees started. So now part 2 and 3 have gone down here. And so that this will just be a project that I work on. For me, Saturdays I designate as Saturday, if that makes sense. And so I try to designate some time each Saturday to work on one of the many stitch-alongs I have going. So that is when this will get some love, as well as, hey, I've finished all of my daily stitching for the week, month, whatever, and I just want to get some easy work in on it. So this is the Winter Woodland Stitch-Along from Autumn Lane Stitchery. And this got a total of, let me see where I put it, 1,117 stitches for the month of January. Not bad for a January start. So this was my new start. And probably my favorite new start of the year, because again, new year, new start. This was one of my January 1st starts. So this is the Heaven and Earth Design Stitch Along. So I have decided that I am stitching Steampunk Portal. The artist is Ciro Marsetti. Don't quite know how to pronounce their name, but so the concept with this is that the designer, they release the first row of pages just before January 1st. And then they'll release the next set in April, and then again in July, and then by October, the entire project will have been released. And so if by the end of the year you have finished this whole piece, you will not only get all of the patterns that were available for the stitch along, but you will get to pick one pattern off the Heaven and Earth Design website. So I already have my goal pattern kind of picked out in my mind. And so right now, so the way I did this was I divided the number of stitches in the first release by the number of days we have, so 90. So the goal was to stitch about 320 stitches a day. And so in January, I have met that goal. So I am on track. So here is where I'm at. Forgive all the parked threads, but that's how my life goes. So, okay. So I have most of page 1 done. The only thing I'm not doing is this bottom row because I don't know what's going to come down here. So I'm just kind of parking my threads here where I can. So now I've moved over to page 2. And I am absolutely in love with this piece. There are some days it stitches up faster than others because a lot of the black here, there's like three colors. So there's 939 and 310. So the black areas go pretty quickly because it's just one color. Whereas some of these sections have gone a little bit slower because, as you can see from my parked threads, there might be like 10 different colors in a 10 by 10 or more than a 10 by 10 square. So I'm just kind of going where the pattern kind of takes me. So I think in February, my goal is to have this page done and moved on to the third page. So this has gotten 9,835 stitches in. So this is right now, it is on track. So the first set of pages that were released were this first row. So by the end of March, I should be done with this first row and then on down to here. And this is this is the entire fabric. So this will be the smallest height I've ever worked on. Yay. So this will probably be the first height I ever finish. So this is on 25 count easy grid using the called for DMC. I am stitching this 2 threads over 1 full cross because that is my comfort level. And I also love how it makes the back look. So there's my back. I don't always show my back, but when I do, it's usually a height. So that is Steampunk Portal from Heaven and Earth Designs. And since I'm on a new start kick, this was not a planned start, but this was a start that I was enabled by Laura and Keisha of the Pattern Queens, and Laura's part of the Black Needle Society. So this project is being kept in this beautiful project bag with quotes from Jane Eyre on it because that's one of my favorite all-time books. So this was a project bag from the Black Needle Society. And inside is is called Society Stitcher. So this is what it looks like. This is a free pattern on the Black Needle Society's Facebook group. So if you are in the Black Needle Society's Facebook group, if you go to files, you will see this pattern in there. And so Laura and Keisha decided that they were going to use this as their 25/7 project. That is that every day they were going to stitch a minimum of 25 stitches on it. And so I said, well, you know what? Let me join you. So I started this not January 1st like they did, but I started this one on July 9th. So I started kind of a week later. And originally I tried to do 25 stitches, but I didn't like that I didn't finish a thread. That's just me. So I decided that rather than doing 25 stitches a day, I'm just doing a strand a day. So I'm just picking one strand of thread and stitching as far as it goes. And then when it's done, I'm done with that project for the day. So after a month, let me try to get this here again with some white background on it so the pattern comes out. So this is where I'm at. I don't know if the white shows. So this is a light purple fabric, and it goes along. So this is, kind of light purple. It's a lot easier in person, so you can kind of see that. So this is where I ended up. Here is I got the snail started at the bottom of the teacup. I brought the side down so I know this is how tall the project's going to be, and then this is as wide as the project's going to be. So this overall got 847 stitches in the month of January. And so I have caught up to where Laura and Keisha are, probably a little bit ahead, but that's okay. I really, really am enjoying this piece. So that is Society Stitcher from the Black Needle Society. And stick it back in its project bag. And then my last new start was another kind of stitch along with some friends. So actually there's 2 pieces to this. One I've already started and one I started in January. So both of these are designed by Works by ABC. And the first one was released last year for the Nashville Needlework Market, and it is 324. And so the reason it's called that is because it uses 324 colors of DMC. So each motif is a different color. So I started this back in May of last year for Stitch Mania with the goal of having it finished by March 24th of this year. That goal's not happening. So when I saw that my friends in Australia, Chloe and Liz and Mel and Amy, were starting this project on January 1st with the goal of doing a motif a day, I said, okay, let me just do that with them. And so even though I'm further ahead than they are, that will allow me to continue to make progress. So let me start with 324 because that's my work in progress. So here's where I was at the beginning of January. And here is where I'm at today. So this includes the first 2 days of February. So I am now on the blue and purple diagonal. So that makes me very, very happy. This project, each day, the little squares here are 25 stitches. So those go by really quickly. But these motifs, sometimes, 70 to 100 stitches, it does not take me very long at all to get a motif in. So this I am fairly confident I will keep up with. And so I am doing mine on this piece in diagonals. So I'm just going down the diagonals and will continue to do so. So this is 324 by Works by ABC. And so that leads me to my new start. So Works by ABC released the sequel to 324 towards the end of last year. And so again, Chloe and Liz said, hey, we're going to do that one as well. And so we're going to do a motif a day on each piece. So that inspired me to get started on 324 the sequel. So in January 1st, I started this and I've kept up a motif a day. So here is where I am at. And this one is all black work, needlepoint. So these are different specialty stitches. And the directions are actually very, very easy to pick out. The only thing I haven't put in is I have not put in the French knots because French knots are the devil. And I haven't decided if I'm going to go back and try to fight them or just leave them as is. So there are some patterns, some motifs that require French knots, and I'm just not doing them right now. So each of these takes maybe a 10 minutes out of your day to stitch, and I'm loving this piece. So this piece, instead of doing diagonals, I'm doing a page. So here is where the first page was, and now here's where the second page is started. So this includes up through today, because I already got this done in the morning. This is probably the first thing I pull out each day, is this to get this done. So this is 324 the sequel, and this was my final new start in the month of January. All right, and so the rest of them in no particular order. So this piece is kept in the Black Needle Society bag, and this is the stitch along that they did last year about, oh my gosh, the National Month sale. I'm blanking on, celebrate all year stitch along. Thank you, brain. So I have fallen behind. That's why they call it a start along. So I have gotten all the way through August, and I'm still working through September. So I was hoping to have September's finished in January, but that just didn't happen. But that's okay. Just keep plugging at it. That's the next one I'm working on, and I'm not going to start any, October until I finish September. So September was National Velociraptor Awareness Month. And here is where I was at the beginning of the year. And here is where I'm at now. As you can see, I'm almost done. I believe I have under 500 stitches left. So this is one that if I just sit down and buckle down with, I can get done. So I have a lot of the ferns done. I have most of the Velociraptor done. And so in January, I was able to put in 369 stitches. And this is probably one of my favorite ones just because it's the most wild out there one. So this is on the called for DMC that came with it and the called for linen. I don't remember the color name, but I'm really, really liking this color. So that is September National Velociraptor Awareness Month from the Black Needle Society. In the Black Needle Society bag. All right, and the next piece is sort of, I'm going to call it a 2025 start, although I started it in December 2024. So I have been eyeballing the peppermint purple stitch along for years. And finally I said, this year I'm going to do it. So the nice thing about the peppermint purple people, say that 5 times fast, is that the stitch along is free. They have a free layout, a free border, and they put each release free. And then if you want to buy a specialty border, or if you want to buy a different layout, they have multiples available at a reasonable price. But the basics are free. So it took me a while and to decide what colors I wanted and what fabric. And so my husband was actually the ones that kind of picked out this color scheme. So I finished off December with the border done. And then I ran out of the silver Krynic, so I had to wait for that. So here is where I'm at right now. Let me, again, try to stick some white. Yeah. Yeah, the problem with the black is that you can see through it pretty easily. So this is where I'm at on the peppermint purple stitch along. So the border is silver Krynic, and the fill-in is Bradley's balloons from Threadworks. So that's what I've done. I've got the border here, and then I've just, so I've caught up with this. So I'm got the first 5 weeks in, and so this is where the next piece will be. So I'm hoping that in February I can continue knocking out the outline. So then all I have to do is each week just fill in, and I'm really, really loving this. Just kind of letting the colors go where they go. And so my husband was the one that came up with this idea of using the rainbow variegated floss, because he said rather than, analysis paralysis trying to figure out what colors I wanted for which block or anything, he said just grab a variegated color and let the colors go where the colors go. And so I've been looking for an excuse to use Bradley's balloons on a project, and so here it is. So this is the peppermint purple stitch along. All right, and then the next piece is one that I was hoping to have finished, but life happens. So this is the Saints Gnome from, I believe, Nenny Design Crafts. So she designs gnomes for all sorts of occasions, and she has gnomes for all different sports. So I bought this with the intention of stitching it during every single Saints game and hoping to finish it. Well, I didn't quite finish it, but I came awfully close. So here is where I was at the beginning of January on this. And then during the last Saints game of the season, I put in 344 stitches to get this far. So I'm so close. I just got to finish his hat. So I've decided that I'm going to stitch on this during the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is being played in the Saints Stadium, although obviously the Saints didn't make the Super Bowl. So that way I could have this done rather than having to wait until August or September to work on this. So I am hoping that this will be a finish in February. So this is the Saints Gnome from Nenny Design Crafts, and this was 344 stitches in the month of January. And then my next project was my rainy day stitch. So what I have decided with this one is I picked one of my oldest whips, and then any day that it rains, I put 100 stitches in. So in the month of January, we had rain on 3 different days. So I put 325 stitches into Cinderella from Thomas Kincaid. This is from the Disney Dreams collection. I do not believe you can get this anymore without going onto eBay. I picked this kit up at Joann's years ago and started this around 2015, 2016. And so this is a 5x7 piece, which is much more my style. So here's where I was at the beginning of January, whichever way it is. And here is where I'm at today. So I just have the clouds up here left to finish, and then I have back stitching and French knot hell to go through. But I'm going to get the back stitching done for sure, and then we'll see how it looks without the French knots. So I have been plugging away at this using the rainy day method now for about 3 months. So I'm pretty confident that this will get finished by March, because we already have rain in the forecast next week. And so just, a little bit every day. So this part, now that it's just like 3 colors up here, it'll go by really, really fast. Whereas like up here with the trees, it was a lot of confetti. So I'm really, really liking this. And I'm glad I'm finally starting to see the finish line on this because this was the first full coverage piece I ever started. Um, and so I have learned that you can see where I've used the pen to kind of grid um, back before I just figured out how to do the counting myself. So I'm really, really, really hoping that that comes out because the ink has been in there now for almost 10 years. But it's from the type of pen that is meant for fabric that they say will wash out. So I'm hoping it'll wash out. So this is Cinderella from Thomas Kincaid. And the final piece that is in my pile was my Heaven and Earth design for my WhipGo. So I have my last WhipGo board is my Heaven and Earth design board. And with that, the same piece happened to be called for both numbers in January. And so the goal overall was to put 10,000 stitches into Christmas Puppies from Dominic Davison. And so here is where I was at the beginning of January. And here is where the entire piece looks like now. So I'm kind of back out here and show you everything. Hope you guys can see this. Yes. All right, so in January, I put in this whole bit from top here down. I ended in December down here. So all of this was in January. So I've made it to the edge of the piece. Yay. And so I met my goal by about 300 stitches. So I think I did like 10,300. And so this is my oldest Haid. This one I started in October of 2019, I think. Yes, I think this was an October 2019 start. And so I am now at like 34% of the way done on this. And so this will get called at least one more time for WhipGo this year for another 5,000 stitches. So my stretch goal is to, by the end of the year, have this all done. That would be my stretch goal for this year, is just to finally get over here. So at the beginning of the year next year, I can start back over here. But this is, again, the piece where I've kind of gotten my Haid chops going. So I have learned, this is the piece where I kind of figured out my stitching style, the fact that I like 2/1 full cross, and the fact that I figured out I'd rather park than do cross country, the fact that I kind of almost stitch by motif rather than by page and by a diagonal. So I'm really, really, really enjoying this piece. And you figure after 5-6 years, you think you get sick of something. Nope. So that is my January stitching progress. Had a lot of days to stitch because I had a lot of days inside. It was snowing. I think I managed to go on one hike for sure. So I did get a chance to go out on a snowy hike with friends. And the beautiful thing with that was that we were the first people to break tracks on fresh snow, and that is always a joy. So I did get a chance to do that, and then it's just been cold. It has been just disgusting, and the desire to crawl out of the house to go hiking when I could stay home and stitch. So in January, for some life updates here, the inauguration of Donald Trump put me more in of a funk than I thought I was. We knew it was going to be bad. We just didn't, I don't think I was mentally prepared for just everything. So I'm still trying to figure out my role in the resistance. But what I try to do is just love on everybody, take care of the people that I can, and just, like somebody said, do the next right thing. I may not have the answers for what I can do long term, but just look for the next right thing to do. So with that, I am still teaching the citizenship class to people who want to become U.S. citizens. So I'm working locally with the immigrant community just to make sure that they understand their rights. and responsibilities as a resident, as a citizen. What happens if immigration comes to their door? Just make sure they understand what rights they have and what they should and should not do. And then I also started volunteering at the local food pantry because, with the economy and now with inflation and grocery prices, people more than ever have needed food assistance. So I have seen people of all walks of life come through there. And my days at the food pantry, I'm there for 2 hours and I'm going all the time, just grabbing food, talking to people. So that has made me feel like I'm giving back to my community and helping out where I can. The other thing that's been kind of difficult this last week. So you guys probably heard about the plane crash here locally in DC at Reagan. And the helicopter involved was from my brother-in-law's unit. So thankfully, my brother-in-law was not on the copter, but he knew all three of those pilots. So just trying to support my sister and my brother-in-law as best I can and their unit as best I can. But the one thing I just want to share with everybody is you've got to remember that there's families that are grieving. So people are pointing fingers left and right and trying to say it's this and this and this, because in an accident, people just need something or somebody to blame. And right now, it's just a tragic accident. So just please don't do the finger pointing. Just please be in prayer for the families that have been involved in this. 67 people lost their lives. So that's 67 families that are trying to pick up the pieces of what happened. So that has been a little bit of a shock. So beyond that, just really just trying to do the best that I can, help as many people as I can in my little sphere. Again, doing the next best thing, the next right thing, and just trying to keep hope. So along that end, I have joined Blue Sky. So I have two Blue Skies. One is more my political rants, because I know not everybody wants to hear everybody's political rants. So if you care about my political rants, my Blue Sky handle is Pearly Hiker, but I've also started one for stitching. So with that, my stitching one is the Hiking Stitcher at Blue Sky, because with gosh knows what's going on with Meta and Facebook, and me just not being a big fan of the billionaires trying to control and take data, I'm not 100% migrating from Instagram to Blue Sky, but I am starting to establish my presence on Blue Sky. So if you are on Blue Sky, please try to find me. If you're not on Blue Sky, come join us, because there's such a wonderful stitching community coming through there as well. So with that, I think I need to pack up and get ready to go meet my friends at the winery for the day. So that is my January update, and I will see you guys in another month. So never forget, don't ever let anybody tell you what to do. You always just stitch your own stitch. Have a great day.